Meanwhile, in the distant safe zone, peace was far from stable as everyone secretly celebrated surviving, but a blonde-haired man harbored intense hostility and jealousy toward Changgun, refusing to believe that a drunkard could achieve such feats. His companions thought he had lost his mind when he claimed he had awakened some kind of talent, and soon his system panel showed a prompt that the deity Twilight-Piercing Owl was deeply interested in player Xian Chungji's talent. His companions were shocked because they had never heard of anyone connecting with a deity again after the awakening test. Suddenly, a sharp piercing sound echoed from the sky, crashing heavily into the safe zone. When the smoke cleared, the arrival was revealed to be the administrator of H-Channel, known as the Rabbit Messenger, whose cute appearance lowered everyone's guard but also caused confusion about why an administrator appeared now. The administrator explained that under normal circumstances, management policy was non-interference to grant freedom, but due to the dungeon's explosive popularity, upper management pressured them to increase the dungeon's difficulty. The administrator appeared behind Parkong and shocked him by knowing his name, and that he was the sole survivor of the dungeon Evil Dragon's Cave. A chill ran through Parkong's body, and before leaving, the administrator ominously stated that the management bureau had been closely monitoring him. As the countdown reached 0, the administrator disappeared, and before Parkong could recover, miserable screams echoed from the distance as ordinary people with no combat ability instantly became prey for magical beasts once the safe zone was lost, destined to be devoured. Suddenly, a figure rushed out from the crowd, John Chungj, recently chosen by the Divine Throne Twilight-Piercing Owl. Confident under the deity's protection, the demon wolves before him seemed as harmless as puppies. However, in a corner, unnoticed by him, the system panel changed and the deity's name turned into garbled characters, with a mysterious red light filling his eyes. Meanwhile, far away in the jungle, Li Changtsung finally extracted the venomous fang he desired. With a few more items combined, he would become the first human immune to all poisons. But before celebrating, a cold system notification warned him that the second area was about to open, and deities eagerly awaited his next performance. Changgun had not expected the selection ceremony so soon and thought he could rest, but deceiving the avid hunter had attracted great attention from stars and deities. Opening his attribute panel, Changgun was fragile, nearly out of health, mana, and most critically, stamina. The current situation did not allow rest because magical beasts appeared everywhere suddenly. The fire lizard, true to its name, incinerated everything with scorching flames. Ordinary people would flee at first sight, but Changgun's heart was filled with joy because the dungeon rules meant the first area had biological poison, the second had fire poison, followed by ice, mineral, and corrosive poison. He now needed to store fire energy. The fire lizard launched a fiery attack like meteors, but Changgun dodged skillfully, then slashed its back hard during its recovery, causing it to lose composure and spew flames recklessly. Changgun moved like a phantom, pierced its body with his longsword, then leaped up and decapitated the magical beast with a devastating strike. Though victorious, if magical beasts attacked in swarms, his low stamina would become a serious problem. He reached into the lizard's burning corpse and extracted a fiery red orb called the Fire Relic, swallowing it despite the intense pain, which improved his fire resistance and stored fire energy. Flames burst from his mouth like magic, but one Fire Relic was not enough. He needed more to fulfill the second condition for immunity to all poisons and to fuel the 8 trigrams furnace, which required enough fire seeds to ignite quickly. Immunity to all poisons was an exclusive skill, belonging to his nemesis Scorpio of the Zodiac, whose effect was not just protection, but recombining toxins into deadly blood poison. In his previous life, despite surpassing Scorpio's combat power, Changgun suffered divine collapse after being cursed by Gaia because of Scorpio's venom, almost losing his life. Only through secret arts learned from fallen stars in the underworld, guided by a deity named Yilao, who lost his daughter to Scorpio, did Changgun find a shortcut to immunity. After killing all the lizards nearby, the fire seeds were still insufficient, so Changgun rushed deeper into the jungle to find the magical beast's main camp, where stronger monsters dropped more fire seeds. Meanwhile, near the jungle edge, Zhang Shengj, blessed by a deity, fought fire lizards effortlessly and dreamed of surpassing Li Changgun. But when he checked the leaderboard, the gap was too large, filling him with jealousy and disbelief. Suddenly, the Divine Throne sent a message allowing him to use any means necessary, and the demonic whisper stoked his envy until he descended into madness, ready to sacrifice everything to defeat Li Changgun. Danger in the dungeon was no longer just from magical beasts, but also from humans who once seemed ordinary. A few days ago, Li Changgun suddenly transformed into a divine candidate, which naturally caused some psychological turmoil. At this time, Zhang Chong stepped forward, claiming that the deity had just answered everyone's prayers and promised supreme power to anyone willing to worship him. The scene then shifted to a deer-type magical beast fleeing deeper into the jungle, in panic. Despite its fear, it was a lord-level magical beast that dominated the region. Before it could escape Fortunately, Changun's agility allowed him to dodge all the emerald toxins sprayed by the plague spider. At that moment, he realized that 3 days of hard training were not enough to defeat a final lordal boss alone, so he decided to retreat quickly and vanished from the plague spider's sight. Meanwhile, in another part of the jungle, when Jin Chong reached the second area, he saw a field full of monster corpses. The sight shocked him deeply, because he couldn't believe how Li Changun had managed to kill so many monsters so quickly. Then the system prompt stunned him by announcing that someone was creating a great achievement, and Li Changun was at the top of the leaderboard with an unbeatable score. No matter how hard Jin Chong tried, he could not even reach a fraction of that score. His resolve began to collapse and panic took over, as he couldn't understand how an ordinary person became so powerful so fast, even though he himself was blessed by a deity. More importantly, if he didn't achieve good results soon, the angry deity would surely destroy him. The system notified that Li Changun was currently fighting the corrupted plague spider, and Jin Chong rushed toward the jungle's depths, knowing that only by defeating Li Changun could he survive. Changun carefully lured the plague spider into a secret pit he had prepared earlier. The oblivious plague spider was entertained by what it thought was a struggle of ants, but the moment it landed, the ground collapsed beneath it, trapping its massive body. Changun then activated runic inscriptions, causing massive explosions that filled the jungle. The plague spider entered a burned state, and penetrating runes shattered its previously impenetrable shell, making it fragile like paper. But these runes were only the beginning of the trap. The plague spider dragged its injured body out of the pit, desperate for human blood to heal. It smelled something intoxicating, and looked up to see Changun hanging from a rope, looking at the dying beast with contempt. Changun cut the rope with one slash, releasing countless giant spears that pierced the plague spider's body, already severely wounded. The plague spider abandoned all dignity and fled wildly, but Changun pulled the rope again, unleashing another volley of giant spears, even more fierce than before, raining down like drops on the monster. At the same time, Jin Chong and his followers arrived but were intimidated by the scene. They knew charging in would mean certain defeat, and decided to wait until Changun was exhausted to attack. Jin Chong suddenly had an idea that involving ordinary people as hostages could increase his chances of winning. From his vantage point, he saw the girl who had escaped earlier running rapidly. With timing, location, and people in his favor, he believed this battle was his to win. After 2.5 minutes of intense fighting, Changun killed the plague spider and obtained its poison gland, necessary to ignite the 8 trigrams furnace. To everyone's shock, he swallowed the gland in one gulp, but then huge poison. Gas erupted inside him, spreading deadly toxins that killed all life nearby, including himself. The system announced that Li Changun and those around him had fallen into a trap. Everyone panicked, their fear shaking their bodies. Jin Chong realized how foolish he had been. Changun's eyes flashed coldly as he mocked the crowd and declared this was the stage he had prepared for them. The group made their last stand, raising weapons to attack, but they were no match for Changun. Wherever he passed, nothing survived. The power gap terrified everyone into retreat. Even the deities issued an emergency mission to escape the ambush. Just as they tried to run, 2 blade flashes appeared, killing 2 people instantly. Jin Chong raised his dagger to counterattack, believing his strength was enough to fight Changun, but when their blades clashed, he quickly suffered a painful injury as his right hand twisted grotesquely, causing him unbearable pain. Changun smiled mockingly and shattered a hard rock with a single strike. Jin Chong's heart filled with fear as he ordered his followers to stop Changun, but they were powerless like fish on a chopping board. Meanwhile, Park Hong silently observed from a mountain peak, confirming his suspicion that Jin Chong was just a pawn for the deity's entertainment, a decoration to make the show more interesting during Li Changun's rise, much like himself in the past. Jin Chong went mad, slaughtering his own companions until the last person fell. A slight smile appeared on his lips as he cursed a player named Yu Jong-un who had died. According to the contract, he would receive the deceased's remaining life force, but suddenly the black threads connecting the contract snapped, and the system announced the contract was invalidated and the life force acquisition failed. Changun's figure flashed like lightning as he struck fiercely, severing Jin Chong's right arm with thunderous force, causing agonizing screams throughout the forest. What broke Jin Chong more was that the life force he expected did not flow to him, but was taken by Changun. The double blow to body and spirit made Jin Chong lose focus as he muttered in disbelief. Changun pondered the name Jin Chong, which sounded strangely familiar, but when he looked at the man before him, he said he still could not remember who he was. This angered Jin Chong, who shouted that it was because of Changun that he was kicked out of the team during his prime. Changun then looked at him with complete disdain, recalling the man as someone who once complained to him about being kicked out and still looked disgraceful after all this time. This insult ignited Jin Chong's fury, making him lose all reason and defend himself indignantly, claiming he was different now and had the support of a deity. As he finished speaking, the cold system notification said the deity was giving him a dull look. Jin Chong looked to the sky in disbelief, realizing he was just another supporting character in Chang'un's story. At the same time, the system announced he had failed the emergency mission to escape the ambush. Jian Chong roared and collapsed, tears of regret streaming down his face, wishing he had not been jealous of Li Chang'un or followed him blindly. As a blade passed by, the system declared that cursed player Jin Chong had died. Black auras poured from his mouth, and according to the mark's rules, his remaining life force returned instantly to the host. Massive life energy poured out and swept toward Chang'un. The system warned that such enormous energy absorption would take time. Suddenly, a strange formation activated on Chang'un's neck, sending tremendous energy surging into his body. Unlike the black aura, Chang'un felt as if he had consumed a 100-year immortal pill, and his power grew rapidly, although the quality was not impressive. Even the deities admired this, amazed that an ordinary person could tamper with high-level marks. The sacred existence decided to reward Chang'un for this interesting performance. Suddenly, blood sprayed violently from everyone's arms as blood columns lifted them like lambs ready for slaughter. Parkong's heart jumped because this was not a reward, but a test from the deities. If Chang'un failed to meet their expectations, all his existence would be erased. Seeing Chang'un's emotionless eyes, Parkong understood that he had no reason to refuse the deity's gift and had decided to absorb all the life force. However, unexpectedly, Chang'un pressed the refuge button, which puzzled the deities greatly. Chang'un coldly said he could not trust an anonymous deity. The sacred existence laughed loudly and revealed itself as Mephistopheles, the great demon of the abyss. Chang'un's pupils contracted sharply. Mephistopheles was the most powerful great demon in the demon realm, so strong that even the ancient dragon god Tiamat had to prepare carefully to barely defeat him, yet he was known for being recluse. Chang'un was unsure why someone would appear there at that moment, but just as he did not know what to do, the avid hunter gave a stern warning claiming Chang Tsung belonged to her and threatening anyone who dared to target him with a painful price. Hearing this, Chang'un felt relieved because without her arrival, he would have been lost. After he finished clearing the dungeon, the system announced that the dungeon would close in 10 seconds, and everyone should prepare. At that moment, a voice called out to Chang'un from a distance. It was the girl he had saved before asking for his contact information. Chang'un coldly gave her instructions to go to the address on the blade's back to remove the mark completely, since he was not skilled with marks and left the possibility of meeting again up to fate. When the countdown reached 0, a bright light flashed and Chang'un found himself back in the real world sitting on top of a bridge, enjoying the air of his homeland.